Have you ever felt like you were touched by something divine, only to later feel like it abandoned you? Like the universe whispered its secrets into your ear just once and then went silent forever? That's the strange paradox of spiritual awakening. At first it feels like magic. The veil lifts. Time slows. Synchronicities follow you everywhere like clues in a sacred puzzle. You feel love, pure, overwhelming love, coursing through your entire being. And for a moment you are not just alive, you are infinite. But then, as quickly as it came, it fades, the colors dull. The signs disappear, and the silence becomes deafening. This is where most people begin to wonder what went wrong. You see, everyone talks about the beginning of awakening, the bliss, the insights, the feeling of connection with everything, but no one talks about what happens after that. No one prepares you for the loneliness that follows the light, the emptiness, the confusion. And it's not because they're hiding it, it's because most people don't understand it themselves. They think if the bliss is gone, the awakening must be over. They assume they've done something wrong, slipped backward, lost their path. But what if this darkness isn't the end? What if it's a hidden chapter, one that only the brave ever reach? You wake up, and at first, the world feels more beautiful than ever. But soon, that clarity turns into something else, a fog, a distance. You feel like a ghost walking through your old life. Your friends don't understand you. Your passions shift or disappear entirely. You try to return to your practices, your meditation, your mantras, but they feel empty. You ask the universe for a sign, and the silence replies. And so you wonder, was it all just a dream? Did the light lie to you? Or worse, did you mess everything up? But here's the truth, no one tells you this silence is sacred. This emptiness is not failure, it's transformation. What you're experiencing is not a fall from grace. It's a deeper descent into your own truth. It's the point where awakening becomes less about light and more about integration. It's where the journey stops being about escape and starts being about embodiment. And this is where real spiritual maturity begins. Not in the highs, but in your ability to stay present when everything feels dark. So if you're feeling lost right now, if you're wondering why your awakening suddenly feels like a burden instead of a blessing, don't run, don't numb it, don't try to climb back to the light. Because what's waiting for you in the dark is the rest of you. And that your shadow, your silence, your sacred stillness is where your real power lives. In today's video, we'll walk through this hidden terrain together, through the end of awakening, through the sacred void, and into a kind of peace that doesn't glitter, but grounds. A truth that doesn't scream, but liberates. This is the part no one prepared you for. But it's the part you were always meant to walk. They never told you that awakening wasn't a destination. It's not something you check off like a spiritual to-do list. It's not a one-time explosion of light and love, followed by eternal peace and bliss. No, it's a process. One that unfolds in layers. One that challenges every belief you thought you had, even the ones you picked up along your spiritual path. Because here's the thing, the real awakening doesn't start when everything feels magical. It starts when all the magic disappears, and suddenly you're standing there, raw, confused, and wondering what the hell just happened. Most people think spiritual awakening is about feeling high vibe all the time, seeing angel numbers, manifesting parking spots, meditating until you glow. And yes, that phase is beautiful. It's like a cosmic honeymoon. But eventually that phase ends. And when it does, a deeper truth reveals itself. You weren't awakening to escape reality. You were awakening to meet it. To face it, to integrate all the parts of yourself that got left behind in the name of good vibes only. This is the part no one prepares you for. The part that doesn't look cute on Instagram. The part where your shadow starts speaking louder than your affirmations. Where your childhood wounds rise up, not to be judged, but to be witnessed. Where the universe stops responding to your rituals. Because it's now asking you to respond to you. It's asking you to stop performing and start embodying. Stop chasing spiritual highs and start feeling what's actually inside you. Even when it's messy, even when it's not what you expected. And let's be real, it's terrifying. Especially if no one ever told you this was part of the journey, that at some point the signs fade. The synchronicities slow down, and you're left sitting with nothing but your own breath and your own truth. That's when many people think they failed, like maybe they lost their connection. But what if that silence is the connection? What if the universe isn't ignoring you, it's giving you space to finally hear yourself? This video is for that version of you. The one sitting in the dark, not because you're lost, but because you've outgrown every story you've ever told yourself. It's for the version of you that knows deep down the real work isn't found in chasing the light. It's found in learning to stand still when the light goes out. Today we're diving deep into this phase, the end of awakening, the void, the quiet, the honest, sacred in-between space where everything dissolves, so something truer can finally begin to grow. Have you felt it lately? That strange stillness? Like you're floating in a life that no longer fits. You try to meditate, but your mind just won't quiet down. You open your favorite spiritual book, and the words don't land like they used to. You reach for your crystals, your cards, your affirmations. And it all feels like a performance now. Something inside of you is shifting, something you can't name, but it's real. And it's scary, and it's lonely. You're not crazy. You're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. What you're going through has no map, no clear stage, no timeline, and that's what makes it so hard. Because when you first awakened, it all felt alive, magical even. But now, you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if the universe forgot about you. You're walking through your day like a ghost, hoping no one asks how you're really doing, because you don't even know how to answer. Let's be honest. This part hurts. It hurts in ways you can't explain to most people. Your friends don't get it, they think you're just burned out or too sensitive. But deep down, you know this is something else. This is a soul-level unraveling. A silent dismantling of everything you thought made you, and that's terrifying. Because no one teaches us how to let go of identities we've worn for years. No one tells us that healing often looks like falling apart. So let me ask you, have you felt this too? That quiet ache? That invisible shift? That moment where you stop trying to raise your vibration and just try to get through the day? Have you ever wondered why your spiritual practices stopped working? Why the signs disappeared? Why the synchronicities went silent? This isn't failure. This isn't regression. This is the space between stories. The sacred pause before something real can emerge. And this right here is where your truth lives. Not in the polished version of you. Not in the high-vibe persona you used to wear. But in this raw, uncertain, in-between place where you're no longer who you were, and not yet who you're becoming. That's what today's video is really about. Giving language to the part of your path that no one talks about. Creating space for you to feel seen without needing to fix, prove, or perform. So now I ask you, what are your thoughts on this? Have you ever experienced something similar? Let us know in the comments. Your truth might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. So let's talk about what's really happening beneath the surface, beyond the silence, beyond the confusion. Because this isn't just emotional fatigue or some kind of spiritual burnout. What you're experiencing is a dismantling. A quiet, sacred collapse of who you thought you were, so who you truly are can begin to emerge. It's not a mistake. It's not a failure. It's a transition from spiritual identity to spiritual embodiment. And yes, it feels like death sometimes. Because in a way it is. The death of old beliefs, old coping mechanisms, old ways of performing growth. In many spiritual traditions, from the ancient mystics to modern depth psychology, this stage is known as the dark night of the soul, but even that phrase has become misunderstood. It's not about punishment or karmic retribution. It's a rite of passage. A sacred shedding. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed constant proof, constant signs, constant external validation. Now the universe is turning you inward. And not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the next stage of your evolution requires a stronger foundation, inner authority, emotional sobriety, and radical honesty with yourself. This is the point where the spiritual journey stops being aesthetic and starts becoming actual. It's less about how you look when you meditate and more about how you show up when no one's watching. It's when you stop asking the universe to fix your life and start asking what part of me is still hiding, still resisting, still clinging to an identity I've outgrown. These questions aren't always comfortable, but they're necessary. Because only when everything false falls away does the truth finally have room to speak. So how do you move through this phase? First, stop trying to escape it. The silence isn't here to torment you. It's here to teach you how to listen, to feel, to be. Start by simplifying your practices. Don't chase big mystical experiences. Ground yourself in presence. Breathe deeply. Sit in stillness, not to ascend, but to come home. Let your rituals be less about fixing and more about remembering. Journal without trying to sound wise. Walk without needing answers. Cry without needing to explain why. This is how the soul rebuilds, not through performance, but through presence. And here's something else most people don't realize: this phase isn't meant to be rushed. It's not a test you pass quickly. It's a slow return to the real, to your body, to your boundaries, to your intuition. It teaches you how to be in the world again, not as a seeker, but as someone who's beginning to embody truth. That's what this end really is. A holy pause, a sacred void, not empty, but fertile. And in that fertile stillness, something honest begins to grow, not the version of you you thought you should be, but the one you actually are. But here's the catch. The silence you thought was abandonment, it's actually an invitation, not to rise above, but to go deeper. To meet the version of you that never needed to be fixed in the first place. And that's the final twist. No one talks about the more awakened you become, the less you need to look awakened. Because the real markers of growth, they're quiet, subtle, invisible to everyone but you. This is the part where your soul stops performing, where the masks fall not with drama, but with relief. You no longer feel the urge to prove anything. You stop explaining your process. You stop translating your pain for others to understand. Because you've finally made peace with not being understood. You've tasted a silence that holds you instead of judging you, and that changes everything. That's when you start living for real, not as the seeker, not as the guru, but simply as you. The real revelation is this: nothing was ever missing. What you were searching for, the wholeness, the light, the peace, it wasn't out there. It was buried under all the trying, all the effort to become something spiritual enough, good enough, awake enough. When you stop reaching, you start receiving. Not from the universe like a vending machine, but from your own center. Your own stillness, your own knowing. You realize you don't need to meditate for hours to be connected. You don't need to chase signs to feel guided. You don't need to manifest the perfect life to be worthy of it. You're already whole right here, in the middle of your unfiltered, unpolished existence. And suddenly, healing doesn't feel like a project. Awakening doesn't feel like a task. It just becomes life, raw, honest, sometimes messy, but yours. This is the rebirth no one tells you about. The one that doesn't come with fireworks, but with stillness. With clarity, with breath, you begin to walk differently. Not because you've leveled up, but because you've leveled in. And when others look at you and ask, "What changed?" you may not have words to explain. Because some truths don't need to be spoken. They just need to be lived. If any part of this spoke to something inside you, stay close, because you're not the only one walking through this. There are thousands of others, maybe even someone reading the comments right now feeling the same silence, the same unraveling, the same quiet rebirth. And here, we don't pretend to have it all figured out. We walk it together. So if this resonated with you, subscribe and turn on notifications, not because you need more content, but because sometimes just hearing that someone gets it is enough to keep going. We're building something real here. A space where the mess is sacred, where the silence is honored, and where your story is welcome. We'd love to hear from you, truly. What are you sitting with right now? What part of this journey feels familiar to you? Drop your truth in the comments below, not for attention, but for connection, because your insight, your ache, your voice, it might be exactly what someone else needs to feel less alone. You're not broken, you're not behind, you're becoming. And the fact that you're still here breathing, watching, feeling says everything. So take your time, and if it feels right, we'll see you in the next one. You don't return from this kind of awakening as the same person. You walk the same streets, but you move differently. You hear the same voices, but something in you listens with more presence. You look into the mirror and finally see not who you've been trying to become, but who's always been quietly surviving underneath it all. No masks, no roles, just you. There's no need to explain it to anyone, no announcement, no dramatic transformation montage. Because this kind of change doesn't show up on the outside, it lives in your breath, in your stillness, in how you treat yourself when no one's watching. You begin to value the quiet, you start saying no without guilt, you choose rest without shame. And joy, it stops being something you chase, and starts being something you notice, in the light on your floor, in the warmth of your tea, in the simple fact that you're here and you stayed. This is what rebirth really looks like. It's not flashy, it's not trending, but it's real. And in that realness, something sacred takes root. You stop trying to be spiritual and start being human. You stop trying to heal everything and start trusting the parts of you that are already whole. You stop waiting for the universe to give you a sign, because now you carry that light within you, and maybe, just maybe, the silence that once terrified you, now it feels like home, because you know how to sit with yourself, because you know how to breathe without needing to escape, because you know that everything you were looking for was already here waiting for you to return, not as the seeker, not as the enlightened one, but as the soul who remembered itself and chose to stay. So as you step back into the world with all its noise, its mess, its beauty, don't forget this stillness, this truth, this quiet strength. It's yours now, and no one can take it from you. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to protect it. You just need to live it, gently, honestly, as you are.